could we just take a moment to think about what we lost today by not voting for Team Monsters? And moments over, get absolutely destroyed for the second time in a row, Team Monsters. But in all seriousness, Festival of the Lost is finally upon us, and with that comes the new mech-themed armor that Bungie released for the Eververse store. And a whole lot of bugs to go with it. If you're new here, my name is Muffin Bandit, and in this video we're going to do a little review on these armor sets. I'm going to be telling you what I like and what I dislike about them, whether or not I recommend you buy them with either silver or bright dust, and at the end of the video I'm going to be showing you how I turned these armor sets into this. And somewhere in between, I'm also going to be showing you some fashion from my Discord server. That way you guys have tons of ideas to pull from for your own fashion. And if you end up liking this video, well, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like, for example, the video that I did showing you all of the shaders in my inventory on these armor sets. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and rank these sets. Starting off with the shaders, this is basically how easily you can color this armor, and it loses points for things like having pieces that are not able to be shaded. In this category, I want to give it a 4.5 out of 5 because it is nearly perfect. You can get it to shade whatever color you want. Now, whenever it comes to shading it more than 2 colors, that's where it starts to struggle, especially on the chest plate whenever you want to make it look like a Gundam, because I could only get it to shade red and white or blue and white, and I could never get it to do red, blue, and white. Next up is usability. So this is how easily you can mix and match armor pieces with, and for this I give it a 2.5 out of 5. If you have the year 1 armor sets, or if you have maybe the Prophecy Dungeon armor like the Moonfang or the Trials of the Nine armor, you're going to be a pretty happy camper. But if you don't, or maybe you just don't really like that style of armor, then you're not going to be too happy with it. Although the helmet is absolutely amazing and the legs are pretty easy to work with, and some people can get away with the chest plate, but not many. And now we have the wow factor. So if you put on this entire set and walk through the tower, how many guardians would stop and think, wow, where do I get that set? Or man, I really should have bought it whenever it was available. And this really does depend on who you are as a person. Did you grow up watching giant robot anime, or maybe you didn't really care about it? If you did grow up watching like Gundam or Evangelion, if you did, then you would probably give this armor set a 4 out of 5. If you didn't, then you would probably give this set an average 3 out of 5. So a nice middle ground is 3.5 out of 5. And that would bring us to a total score of 10.5 out of 15. So do I recommend this armor set? I would only recommend buying it with real money if you are absolutely obsessed with Gundam, Gunpla, Evangelion, any giant robot anime or movie or TV show. For the rest of you, it really starts to become harder to recommend, considering that we already have a lot of armor pieces exactly like it, or at least really similar to it. It's really fun to own, but definitely not a must-have. And a quick reminder in case you want to skip ahead, towards the end of the video I do have a ton of fashion for this armor set if you're still interested. Trust me, you'd be surprised on what you can make with this set. And now for the Warlock, and starting off with the shader category, easily can give this a 5 out of 5. You can basically do whatever you want with this armor. Whatever color you're thinking of in your head, you can do it. For the usability, I can tell you right now, personally, I would give it a 5 out of 5, but I have to take other people's taste into mind, and I would give this a 4 out of 5 instead, because I understand if not everybody really likes the aesthetic of this armor, especially with those weird shoulders popping up and the weird like rounded helmet. For the wow factor, I think I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4 out of 5 because I haven't really seen too many legitimate complaints about this armor, and if you walk through the tower wearing any of these pieces, I feel like people are really going to feel the FOMO in the future. That brings us to a nice total of 13 out of 15. I would absolutely recommend that you buy this with silver if you have the funds, and if not, then you better be grinding your ass off if you're a warlock main, because this armor is definitely a must-have. And if you don't believe me, if you're still on the fence about it, like I said, there's a ton of fashion at the end of the video, and I bet that will convince you, especially for those of you guardians that are really into Batman, because you could make him Arkham Knight or even Batman Beyond. But before I show you anything else, we need to talk about the Hunter. So for the shader score, I would give it a solid 4 out of 5, because yes, you can get this to do exactly what you want, although it's gonna take you some work, because I definitely had to scroll through a lot of shaders to get it to do what I wanted. And the cloth on this is a little bit difficult to work with because it tends to stay neutral. So you'll find that a lot of the shaders will just turn the cloth a ground, gray, or black color. But once you start to really play around with the colors, you can eventually get it to be something a lot more fun. Now, sadly for the usability, that drops down all the way to maybe a 2 out of 5. And that's being generous, because I can see people using the helmet in some occasions, and then maybe the cloak, but honestly it's going to be really hard to work with, and there are other armor pieces that can do what this set can do, but better. And now for the wow factor, or I guess I should say the lack of a wow factor, because I would give this maybe a 1.5. Maybe a couple of people may find this cool, but I really don't see anybody at the tower stopping to look at you wearing this armor, and it really isn't unique. A lot of armor sets can do what this could do, but better. I really don't see anybody feeling any sort of FOMO over this set, so it gets a total of 7.5 out of 15. I really don't think you should buy this with Bright Dust, let alone silver. But all of that is very subjective, and it is just my opinion, so go ahead and let me know your opinion in the comments down below. But we're not done just yet. Now let me show you what the full potential of all three of these sets is. So starting off with the one that I had the most fun doing, I really wanted to make myself a Gundam. So at first I started off with using the Trials of the Nine Arms and using the Phenotype Plasticity chestplate, because that kind of reminded me of like Gundam Wing almost. But then I went over to put on the Bellinus booster ornament, because at first I did remember that a lot of people said that this ornament reminded them of Gundam whenever it came out, and it definitely has a lot of potential. But the only problem with it was it added a whole lot of weight to the bottom of the Guardian, and everything at the top was just too thin. So I went with the Mechanized Protector plate and the Moonfang gauntlets to make everything look a lot more boxy and a lot more Gundam-like. From there, I took it to the Legacy's Oathmark because it had like a mechanized looking belt, which I really liked, and I wanted to use that to add a little bit of color later. And speaking of color, I put on Searle's Modular Shine to get that classic white and red look on my Guardian, and that provided me a nice base to start adding even more color. Like for example, I put on Regal Daring on my Legacy's Oathmark to start getting that yellow color in there, and for the arms I went with the Satu Tribe shader to start getting that blue in there and make it look a lot more Gundam like. And there you have it. That's how I made my Gundam Titan. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below, but now we're going to move on to the fashion that my Discord server made with this set, starting with Condition 1 Buns, who is using the Terminus Emissary ornament for the Curious of the Falling Star perfectly. I really like the colors used here, and I honestly might steal your look. Really good job. Next up we have Swampert Pappy, and I really like his use of the Technosaurus claws and the Virtuous Mark to recreate a lot of the details on this Gundam. Also, really good job matching the shaders with the colors on the robot. And from Gundam we go over to Transformers, because Oryx recreated Optimus Prime inside of Destiny 2, and honestly it's pretty dang accurate. The only thing that would make this better is if it was a male Titan. Next up we have Dude Man Bro, showing what you can do with the Hollowfire Heart ornament called the Arcturus engine, which I've been really waiting for someone to make something with this, and I am not disappointed. This is freaking awesome. And here we have Brump, which he never disappoints me with his fashion, and I really like this Titan. I like all of the spikes coming off of his armor and the wings using the Phenotype plate. Really good job here. And for my Siva and Synthoceps lovers out there, we have this Titan from Back's Breaker, showing off what you can do with the Deep Stone Crypt Armor and the Flex Enhanced Replicate Ornament for the Synthoceps. Alright, so now let's go ahead and play around with my Warlock. I have been waiting to make some fashion for this helmet, so that's what I went with. I started off with using Crucible Prestige on everything to kind of get everything matching, and then I went to look for robes, and I immediately landed on Nezarec's robes and never went back. And I also just really liked the collar around the helmet. I thought that it really complemented it. Next, I went for the gloves, and honestly, you can use any Warlock armored gloves here because they all kind of look the same and they will all work perfectly with this build. Personally, I liked the Celestial gloves for this because it looked like the armor was kind of layered on top of each other. From there, we went over to the bond, and even though I really like this bond, I ended up going with something simple, which was the Gunsmith's Devotion bond, and I ended up putting the Jacarina shader on it to turn it black. And that's it. Other than that, there really is nothing else to say. This armor is easy to work with, really good looking, and really fun to work with. Let me know what you think about my Warlock in the comments down below. And now let's go over what my Discord server made. Starting with this Warlock from Psycho Kozak, which strongly resembles one of those giant scions that we sometimes fight alongside. I didn't see another Warlock like this, so this one is really cool and really unique. Looks like I had the same idea as NSFW Chaos here, who also used the robes of Nezarec, but he ended up making a Techno Warlock. You guys already know that I am extremely weak to the black armory shaders. I love the way they look on basically everything, and Sniper the Sniper's Warlock is no exception. This guy looks tough. I really love this Warlock from Jamie Purple Art because it reminds me of like a super villain from a kid's cartoon. It is super unique and I fell in love with it the second I saw it. Speaking of super unique, we have this Warlock from Pulsar, and I'm surprised more Warlocks aren't doing this. The combination of the Moonfang helmet and the exoskeleton robes is just perfect. And coming off of that Warlock, we have Baskin, who is also using the same shader, which is the Celestial Dome, in combination with the Mobile Exoskeleton robes. But this time for the helmet, he is using the Afraid of the Dark ornament for the Nezarec Sin, and it is perfect for these robes. This is probably one of my favorite Warlocks that I've seen so far. Alright, so the Hunter set is a little bit special. A ton of people have been asking me how to make this set look like Eva-01 is what I believe that robot or creature is called from Evangelion. I'm sorry, I didn't watch the show. So to start this off, I went with the Smashing Success shader because it added the green and purple coloring that we were looking for. And then after that, I put on the Eternal Vengeance cloak just because of the shapes on the hood and because of the cool jetpack in the back. Next, I went for the helmet, and at first I used the Virtuous mask because of the face shape, but I ended up landing on the Psionic Stalker mask because I felt like that one was a little bit creepier and fit the Eva a lot better, and I put on the Amethyst bloom on it to make it match the purple. Next, I decided to swap out the legs with the Deep Explorer strides because those just provided me with more armor to play around with. And then lastly, I put on Atmospheric Glow on the cloak to give us more of a green color. And there you have it, my Hunter inspired by Eva or Evangelion 01. And by the way, someone correct me if I'm saying that wrong at all, because I know I probably am. Let me know how I did in the comments down below. And now let's go over what my Discord server made, and you're actually going to be pretty surprised. What if I told all of you hunters that you could be Cade 6? Well, some of you may call me a liar, and some of you may already know what's coming. Because not one, not two, not three, but I have 4 Guardians cosplaying as Cade 6. And even though they are all using slightly different armor pieces from each other, the end result is the same. You can finally be your favorite Hunter Vanguard. Next up, we have this Guardian from Mango, who is looking a lot more like a robot or a mech. Really good job here. I really like the colors that you used. This next Hunter is from Dafu Legend, and he is really showing off what you can do with the Machine Skirmisher vest and the Moonfang grips. Both of those are a really nice pairing with each other, and I just like the overall aesthetic of this Hunter as well. Last but not least, we have Bag recreating Dr. Doom, and honestly, the Machine Skirmisher mask is the perfect mask to do that because they're basically one-to-one. Really good job, Bag, and really good job to the rest of my Discord server, even the ones that weren't shown here today. There are plenty of other really good looking guardians in my submissions, so if you guys want to see those as well, make sure to click the link down below to join up. And just like that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you everybody for coming and watching, and if you made it this far, you're awesome. And to kind of give my closing thoughts on all three of these sets, I find all three of them really fun to work with, although I can't recommend all of them. The Hunter set is definitely something that you really have to like in order to buy, but I don't personally recommend it. The Titan set is probably the most fun to work with out of the three. I would recommend that you look into buying it with Bright Dust if you have it, and maybe Silver. The Warlock set, however, that one I would recommend that you spend some silver on it. I really like it, and I can see some people having some serious FOMO if they don't get it. And one last thing, because I know that I'm still going to get comments about this. Man, if you are going to go down to my comment section and complain about we should have voted for Team Monsters instead, that armor would have been so much better, you need to move on because Team Monsters lost again. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that you wanted Team Monsters to win. Maybe next year, but hey, you can't change the outcome by complaining in a random YouTuber's comment section. And with that being said, thank you everybody for coming and watching. Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members. You guys are amazing, and the money that you guys give me goes directly into these videos. It's what I use to buy all of these Eververse armor sets. So without you, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and click on any of the videos popping up in your end card now. And as always, stay beautiful.